I spent 3 months planning the perfect party to celebrate my husband's promotion. Funny how it only took 3 minutes for it to become his execution instead. My name is Soleil, and I was known as the woman who had everything. The successful husband, the mansion in Pacific Heights, the carefully curated life that made other wives whisper behind their hands at charity galas. Tonight was supposed to be my masterpiece. Dylan's celebration of making senior vice president at Montgomery Industries. The champagne tower needs to be higher, I directed the catering staff, adjusting my emerald silk dress. And please make sure the temperature stays at exactly 68 degrees. Mr. Montgomery gets irritable when it's too warm. The grand ballroom sparkled like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors, while white roses and orchids cascaded from sterling silver vases. I'd chosen every detail to reflect Dylan's new status. Subtle, elegant, powerful. "Girl, you've outdone yourself," Tessa said, appearing at my elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "Though I still don't understand why you're throwing this party when you're the one who actually—" "Shh," I took a glass, cutting her off with a smile. "Tonight is about Dylan. Everything else stays in the shadows where it belongs." The room filled quickly with San Francisco's corporate elite. I watched Richard Montgomery enter, his silver hair gleaming as he nodded in my direction. Sawyer from finance arrived next, then the board members and their wives. Dylan's mother, Roslyn, swept in wearing her signature pearls, followed by his sister Sienna in a dress that was a touch too tight for a corporate event. "There's my beautiful wife!" Dylan's arms slid around my waist as he joined us. All perfect teeth and expensive cologne. "This is incredible, babe. You really know how to make me look good?" If he only knew how true that was. The evening flowed exactly as I'd choreographed. Dinner, speeches, the perfect mix of business and pleasure. At precisely 9 o'clock, I picked up the microphone for the toast I'd rehearsed 100 times. "If I could have everyone's attention," I began, raising my glass. "Actually," Sienna's voice cut through the room like a knife, "I have something to say first." She stumbled slightly as she grabbed the microphone from my hand, her face flushed with either alcohol or malice. Probably both. The room went quiet. "I've been keeping a secret," she announced, her voice trembling, "and I can't hold it in anymore. I'm pregnant." A few scattered congratulations rang out. I started to lower my glass. "And Dylan's the father." The champagne slipped from my fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The sound echoed through the sudden, devastating silence. I turned to Dylan, waiting for him to laugh, to deny it, to say anything at all. But he just stood there, face drained of colour, saying nothing. And in his silence, I heard everything. "It's been going on for months," Sienna continued, tears streaming down her face. "We never meant to hurt anyone, but we're in love. We're going to be a family." Roslyn rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Sienna while shooting daggers at me with her eyes, as if somehow this was my fault. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. I felt hundreds of eyes on me, waiting for the hysterics, the screaming, the scene they could gossip about tomorrow. Instead, I smoothed my dress, lifted my chin, and walked calmly toward the exit. My heels clicked against the marble with each step, the sound as sharp as gunshots in the hushed room. "Soleil, wait!" Dylan called after me. "Let me explain." I paused at the doorway, turning to face the crowd one last time. Every face stared back, some with pity, some with barely concealed glee at witnessing such delicious scandal. I looked directly at Dylan and Sienna, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "Thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." Then I walked out, leaving them with their champagne and their secrets and their lies. They thought they were watching the destruction of Dylan Whitney's perfect wife. Instead, they were witnessing the birth of something far more dangerous, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to take. Because what none of them knew, not Dylan, not his precious sister, not even his mother, was that I wasn't just the woman who planned their parties and smiled at their jokes. I was the majority owner of Montgomery Industries, the silent queen they'd just tried to dethrone. That was the moment I stopped being Dylan's wife and started becoming his reckoning. The master suite lock clicked with a satisfying finality. Outside, I could hear Dylan's desperate knocking, his voice muffled through the heavy door. "Soleil, please, just let me explain." I slipped off my heels and walked to our shared closet. The emerald dress pooled at my feet, replaced by silk pajamas. Methodically, I began removing Dylan's things. The custom suits I'd chosen, the watches I'd gifted him, the ties that cost more than my first car. My phone buzzed. "Tessa, I've got the car waiting," she said. "Want me to come up?" "No, but I need you to call Richard. Tell him I'm invoking Article 7 of the ownership agreement." A sharp intake of breath. "Are you sure? That's basically declaring war." They declared war. I'm just choosing the battlefield. I hung up and continued my task, remembering the day I'd bought this penthouse. Dylan thought we'd gotten it through his bonus, but really, I'd purchased it outright through a shell company. Just like I'd arranged his first executive position, his strategic introductions, his carefully crafted resume. The knocking grew louder. "Damn it, Soleil, you can't just lock me out of my own bedroom." I opened the door, making him stumble forward. "Your things will be in the guest room. That's where you'll be sleeping." "You're being ridiculous. Sienna she's confused, emotional. You know how she gets." "Confused about being pregnant? Or confused about who got her that way?" His face darkened. "It's complicated. Actually, it's quite simple." I walked to my desk, pulling out a thick folder. "What's complicated is explaining to the board why the senior VP of operations has been falsifying quarterly reports." Dylan's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "Or maybe we should discuss the offshore account you've been funneling corporate funds into, the one you think I don't know about." "How did you—" "I know everything, Dylan. I've always known everything. Did you really think you got where you are by yourself?" My phone rang. "Richard." "Soleil," his grave voice came through. "Tessa told me what happened. I've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning." "Good. Make sure Sawyer has the audit reports ready. This will destroy him, his career, his reputation, everything." I looked at Dylan, still standing there with his mouth open. "That's the point." After hanging up, I turned back to my husband. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be eventful." "What are you planning?" Fear crept into his voice. "You'll find out soon enough." "Oh, and Dylan?" I smiled, the same smile I'd given him at countless corporate events. "Make sure Sienna comes to the office tomorrow. She should be there to support you, don't you think?" He left without another word, closing the door behind him. I waited until his footsteps faded before allowing myself to sink onto the bed. My phone buzzed again. "Tessa, I'm coming over. No arguments." 20 minutes later, she arrived with a bottle of tequila and 2 glasses. "Remember when we met?" she asked, pouring generous shots. "First year of law school, you were working 3 jobs and still top of the class. And you were the trust fund baby who couldn't understand why I wouldn't just ask my parents for money." I smiled at the memory. "Then you told me about growing up with nothing, about building yourself from scratch. That's when I knew you'd either become my best friend or my worst enemy." She handed me a glass. "I'm glad you chose friend." "Sometimes I wonder if I chose wrong," I said quietly. "If I'd stayed in my lane, married someone from the neighborhood, you'd be miserable and you know it." Tessa's eyes narrowed. "Don't let them make you doubt yourself. You built an empire while letting him take the credit. You made him everything he is. And now I'm going to unmake him." I took the shot, letting the tequila burn away the last of my tears. "First thing tomorrow, I'm calling a vote to freeze his shares. By noon, he'll be suspended pending investigation. By the end of the week." "He'll be nothing," Tessa finished. My phone lit up with a text from Sawyer. "Found something interesting in Sienna's medical records. Call me." I showed it to Tessa, who raised an eyebrow. "Still want to wait until morning?" "No," I replied, already dialing. "The thing about revenge is timing is everything, and right now time is all I have." I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, Dylan and Sienna were probably planning their next move, thinking they had the upper hand. Poor things. They had no idea what was coming, because while they'd spent years playing house, I'd spent years building an empire, and queens don't surrender their crowns without a fight. The Montgomery Industries lobby fell silent as I walked through security at 7 a.m. sharp. Gone was the designer dress and perfect smile. Today I wore a black power suit and blood-red stilettos that echoed like warning shots across the marble floor. "Mrs. Whitney," the security guard started. "Miss Gonzalez," I corrected, not breaking stride. "And I'll need all of Mr. Whitney's access cards deactivated immediately." Sawyer was waiting in my private office, the one Dylan never knew existed on the executive floor. "Tell me everything," I said, settling behind my desk. He placed a folder in front of me. "Sienna's been visiting Dr. Matthews, an OB-GYN in Pacific Heights. She is pregnant, about 10 weeks along. But here's where it gets interesting." He pointed to a highlighted section. "She's been prescribed medication for severe anxiety and depression. Started about 6 months ago. Around the time Dylan's promotion was announced," I mused. "What else?" "Security caught her trying to access the building this morning. She was unstable, screaming about needing to see her brother." "Send me the footage." My phone buzzed. "Richard." "The board's assembled. Ready when you are." I stood, straightening my jacket. "Have security escort Sienna to the conference room. It's time everyone met the real owner of Montgomery Industries." The boardroom doors opened to chaos. Sienna was crying hysterically while Dylan attempted to comfort her. Board members whispered among themselves. Richard sat at the head of the table, looking grave. "What is she doing here?" Dylan demanded when he saw me. "This is a board meeting." "Exactly." I took my seat at the opposite end of the table. "Richard, please proceed." Richard cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the majority shareholder of Montgomery Industries, Ms. Soleil Gonzalez." The room erupted. Dylan's face went from red to white in seconds. "That's impossible," he sputtered. "I would have known." "Would you?" I opened my laptop, projecting documents onto the screen. "Like you knew about these falsified performance reports? Or the money missing from the Pacific acquisition? Those are confidential files." Dylan stood, pointing accusingly. "You had no right." "I had every right. This is my company." I turned to the board. "Mr. Whitney has been suspended pending a full investigation. Sawyer will assume his duties effective immediately." "You can't do this," Sienna shrieked, mascara running down her face. "We're having a baby, your husband's baby." I pulled out another document. "Interesting you should mention that. Dr. Matthews' office was quite helpful when the majority shareholder requested your medical records." I paused, letting the tension build. 10 weeks pregnant, Sienna. That would be around the time you were seen with Jeremiah Santiago." The colour drained from her face. "How did you—" "Jeremiah, your cousin. Dylan's cousin." I looked directly at Dylan. "Would you like a paternity test? Or should we just assume family runs deep in the Whitney clan?" Sienna collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Dylan looked like he might vomit. "Security will escort you both out," I continued. "Your personal items will be shipped to your mother's house." "And Dylan?" I smiled coldly. "I want my rings back." He yanked them off his finger, throwing them across the table. They skittered to a stop in front of me, just like his career. As security led them away, I addressed the stunned board members. "I understand you have questions. I'm prepared to answer them all. But first, we have a company to run." Hours later, I sat in my office, watching the sun set over the bay. Tessa burst in, waving her phone. "Have you seen this? Sienna's been admitted to the psychiatric ward at Memorial. Something about a breakdown in the lobby." "I know." I didn't look away from the window. "I had Dr. Matthews send her records to the hospital. They'll take good care of her." "And Dylan?" "Currently discovering all his credit cards have been cancelled. Amazing how many things were in my name." Tessa sat across from me. "You know this isn't over. They'll try to fight back. Let them." I finally turned to face her. I spent years building this company while playing the perfect wife. I watched Dylan take credit for my work, my ideas, my success. I smiled and nodded and kept my mouth shut. And now? Now I'm done being silent. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You don't know what you've started. Family protects family." "Who's that?" Tessa asked, noting my expression. "Roslyn," I replied, deleting the message. "Apparently, she's chosen her side." "And you've chosen yours." I thought about the paternity test I'd already ordered, the documents being gathered, the pieces moving into place. No, Tessa, I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing scorched earth. Rosalind's mansion looked exactly as I remembered, a monument to old money and older secrets. I smoothed my cream-coloured dress, the picture of a grieving wife seeking comfort from her mother-in-law. The housekeeper led me to the sunroom, where Rosalind sat like a queen in exile, surrounded by photos of Dylan and Sienna as children. "I'm surprised you had the nerve to come here," she said, not offering me tea. I perched delicately on an antique chair. "I thought we should talk, mother to daughter." "I'm not your mother," she snapped, "and after what you've done to my children—" "What I've done?" I let out a soft laugh. "Tell me, Rosalind, when did it start? The inappropriate closeness between them?" She stiffened. "I don't know what you're implying." "Don't you? The way Sienna always followed Dylan around? How she never quite managed to keep a relationship? The special bond they shared after their father died?" They were grieving. Rosalind's hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. They needed each other. Is that what you told yourself when you found them together that Christmas? The one where Sienna was 16? The wine glass shattered on the floor. Who told you about that? Your old housekeeper was very chatty after I helped her son get into rehab. I leaned forward. She remembered everything. The crying, the screaming, the way you swept it all under the rug. I protected my children. You enabled them. And now look where we are. Rosalind stood, pacing the room. Sienna's always been fragile. After their father, she latched onto Dylan. I thought she'd grow out of it. But she didn't, did she? Instead, she grew more obsessed. And Dylan... I paused, watching Rosalind's face. Dylan used that devotion whenever it suited him. You don't understand our family. Oh, but I do. I understand that Sienna's baby isn't Dylan's. It's Jeremiah's, your nephew. Another family secret to bury? The colour drained from Rosalind's face. Get out. Gladly. But first, I placed a manila envelope on the table. The paternity test results. Thought you should have a copy before they become public record. I was halfway to the door when Rosalind called out, "He loved you, you know, in his way." I turned back. Love doesn't excuse what he did, and your protection doesn't excuse what they became. My phone rang as I reached my car. Dylan. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Having tea with your mother. Lovely chat about family history. Stay away from my family. Or what? You'll sleep with another relative?" "This isn't funny, Soleil. I'm being frozen out of every meeting. My expense accounts are locked. Even my gym membership is cancelled. Consider it a preview. I started the engine. The board votes tomorrow on your permanent removal. You can't do this to me. I already have." "Oh, and Dylan? I'd check on Sienna if I were you. The hospital called. She's not doing well with the paternity results." I hung up as another call came through. Sawyer. "We found something in the financial audit," he said without preamble. "Dylan's been falsifying more than just performance reports. There's a pattern of funds being diverted to offshore accounts. Send everything to legal. And Sawyer, make sure the SEC gets an anonymous tip." Back at my office, Tessa waited with takeout and a grim expression. "Sienna tried to check herself out of the hospital," she said. "When they wouldn't release her, she accused a nurse of being part of your conspiracy. Paranoia's setting in." I picked at my noodles. "Did you get the restraining order?" "Filed this morning. She can't come within 500 feet of you or the office." My phone buzzed with a text from Richard. "Board meeting moved to 9 a.m. Votes are secured. It's done." "Tomorrow's the end," Tessa said softly. "Are you ready?" Before I could answer, security called. "Ms. Gonzalez, Mr. Whitney is in the lobby demanding to see you. He's intoxicated." I pulled up the security feed on my computer. Dylan was swaying, tie askew, screaming at the guards. "Let him up," I told security. "It's time to finish this." "Are you sure?" Tessa asked. I thought about all the years I'd spent building him up, making him shine while I stayed in the shadows, about Sienna's obsession and Rosalind's enablement, about family secrets and corporate lies, and the price of silence. "Yes," I said, straightening my spine. "Let him come. It's time he met the real woman he married." The elevator dinged, and I could hear Dylan's unsteady footsteps approaching. Tessa squeezed my hand before slipping out the side door. I sat behind my desk, power and purpose humming through my veins. The door burst open, and there stood my husband, disheveled, desperate, and about to learn exactly what happens when you underestimate a quiet woman. "You ruined everything," Dylan slurred, stumbling into my office. His designer suit was wrinkled, and he reeked of expensive scotch. "You did that all by yourself." I remained seated, watching him sway. "Though Sienna certainly helped. She's in the hospital because of you." He slammed his hands on my desk. "My sister is having a breakdown, and you're sitting here in your tower like some kind of queen," I supplied. "Funny how that works. You wanted a trophy wife, but you got a chess master instead." "This isn't a game, Soleil." "No? Then why did I just receive this?" I turned my laptop to show him an email. Sienna tried to wire $500,000 to an account in the Caymans. Money she doesn't have, from an account that doesn't exist. His face paled. That's not your offshore account, the one you've been funneling company money into for years?" I clicked through more documents. "Or should we discuss the falsified reports? The creative accounting? The kickbacks?" "You can't prove any of that." "Actually, I can. Sawyer's been quite thorough with the audit." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Sawyer. "SEC received the tip. They're opening an investigation." Dylan must have read something in my expression because he suddenly lunged for my phone. I jerked back, but not before he saw the message. "You reported me to the SEC?" His voice cracked. "Do you know what they'll do to me?" "Exactly what you deserve." The door opened, and Tessa walked in, followed by 2 security guards. "Everything okay in here?" "Mr. Whitney was just leaving," I said smoothly, "though he might want to check his phone first." Dylan pulled out his phone, face contorting as he read. What is this?" "The hospital called. Sienna finally admitted the truth about the baby." I stood, walking around my desk. "How long have you known Jeremiah was the father?" "I didn't—" She said what you wanted to hear. What would hurt me the most. But DNA doesn't lie, Dylan. And now everyone knows. The board, the hospital staff, your mother." He collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. "You've destroyed us." "No, your secrets did that. I'm just making sure everyone sees them." My phone rang. Richard again. "The press got wind of the SEC investigation. It's hitting the news in an hour." "Perfect timing," I replied, watching Dylan. "The board meeting's in 30 minutes. After hanging up, I addressed the security guards. "Please escort Mr. Whitney to the boardroom. Make sure he doesn't leave the building or make any calls." Once they'd dragged him out, Tessa turned to me. "You didn't tell him about Rosalind?" "Not yet." I gathered my files. Let him hear that bombshell along with everyone else. We walked to the boardroom together, my heels clicking against marble like a countdown. Inside, the board members sat in tense silence. Dylan was slumped in a corner chair, looking utterly defeated. Richard called the meeting to order, just as my phone lit up with another text, this time from an unknown number. My half-brother, Rolando. "Sienna reached out, offered money for dirt on you. Should I take it?" I felt a cold smile spread across my face as I typed back. "Play along. Let's see how deep she wants to dig." "Soleil?" Richard's voice pulled me back. "Would you like to begin?" I stood, straightening my jacket. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board, what you're about to hear will be on every news channel within the hour. But first, you deserve to know the whole truth." I clicked through my presentation. The fraudulent reports, the missing money, the SEC investigation. With each revelation, Dylan seemed to shrink further into himself. "And finally," I said, pulling up one last document, a sworn statement from Rosalind Whitney, detailing a pattern of inappropriate behaviour between her children dating back to their teenage years. Behaviour she covered up, enabling the dysfunction that led to this moment. The boardroom erupted in shocked whispers. Dylan shot to his feet, swaying. "You're lying!" "Your mother signed it this morning, right after I showed her the paternity test results." As if orchestrated, phones around the room began buzzing with news alerts. The story had broken. "I move for immediate termination," Sawyer announced, standing, "and full cooperation with the SEC investigation." The vote was unanimous. As security moved to escort Dylan out, he turned to me one last time. "Why? Why destroy everything we built?" "We?" I laughed softly. "I built this empire while you played pretend. The only thing you built was a house of lies. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. And I just lit the match. He was led away, leaving me standing in a room full of people who finally saw me for what I truly was. Not just powerful, but dangerous. My phone buzzed again. Rolando. Sienna's offering more money. How far do you want this to go? I smiled, thinking of all the dominoes still left to fall. All the way, little brother. All the way down. The news vans circled the building like vultures as Rosalind stormed into my office, her perfectly coiffed hair coming undone at the edges. How dare you release that statement, she hissed. Those were private family matters. Private? I looked up from my computer. Like the private account Dylan set up for Sienna, or the private therapy sessions you forced her into after that Christmas incident. I was protecting my children. You were protecting your reputation. I stood, matching her fury with ice. And now you can't protect either. My phone buzzed. Tessa. Turn on the news. Now. I clicked on the wall-mounted TV just in time to see Sienna being led out of the hospital in handcuffs. The headline scrolled beneath, VP's sister arrested for financial fraud attempt. Rosalind sank into a chair, her face ashen. What have you done? I didn't do anything. Your daughter tried to wire company funds using forged documents. The bank caught it and called the police. She's sick. She needs help, not handcuffs. Then maybe you should have gotten her real help years ago instead of covering up her obsession with Dylan. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the glass walls, I could see Dylan being escorted out by SEC agents, his hands cuffed behind his back. Mrs. Whitney, one of the agents appeared in my doorway. We need you to come with us as well. Rosalind's eyes widened in panic. Me? But I'm not involved in the company. No, but you are involved in the fraud. Those checks you've been signing, the ones Dylan told you were for business expenses, they were part of the embezzlement scheme. I watched as they led her away, her perfectly crafted world crumbling around her designer heels. Tessa rushed in moments later. Did you know about Rosalind's involvement? Sawyer found her signatures last week. I was waiting for the right moment. And Sienna's arrest? An unexpected bonus. Though Rolando tells me she's been getting desperate, reaching out to anyone who might have dirt on me. My phone rang. Richard. The press is demanding a statement. We need to get ahead of this. Set up a conference. It's time to tell my side of the story. An hour later, I stood before a sea of cameras in the company's main conference room. The lights were hot, but I remained cool in my white blazer, the picture of corporate elegance. Ladies and gentlemen, I began. My name is Soleil Gonzalez. For years, I've been the majority owner of Montgomery Industries, operating in the background, while others took credit for my work. The reporters leaned forward, hungry for more. I built this company from nothing, watching as my husband claimed my successes as his own. When I discovered his fraudulent activities, I had a choice: remain silent or stand up for what's right. Ms. Gonzalez, a reporter called out, what about the allegations of inappropriate relations between your husband and his sister? Those are private family matters that have unfortunately become public. My concern is protecting this company and its employees from the actions of those who would abuse their positions. Another voice. Will you be stepping down? No. I smiled. Steel beneath silk. I'm stepping up. It's time for Montgomery Industries to have transparent leadership. No more shadows, no more secrets. As the questions continued, my phone lit up with a message from Rolando. Sienna's talking. You won't believe what she's saying about Dylan. I excused myself from the podium, letting Richard handle the remaining questions. In my office, I called Rolando. What did she say? That Dylan promised to leave you months ago, that they had a plan to take control of the company together. She's spilling everything to save herself. I laughed softly. Perfect. There's more. He hesitated. She's asking about our father, about what really happened the night he died. My blood froze. That was one secret I'd buried deep. Soleil? Tessa appeared in my doorway. The board wants to speak with you. They're talking about changing the company name. I ended the call, pushing away memories of that rainy night 15 years ago. Tell them I'll be right there. Are you okay? You look pale? I'm fine. I straightened my blazer. just remembering that every victory has a price. Speaking of prices, she held up her tablet. Dylan's lawyer just filed for divorce. He's claiming emotional manipulation and corporate sabotage. I smiled, thinking of the prenup he'd never bothered to read carefully. Let him try. I've got one last card to play, which is the truth about what really happened to the Whitney family fortune. I walked toward the boardroom, my heels marking each step like a verdict. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you take, it's what you reveal. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as I arrived for the divorce proceedings. Dylan's lawyer had leaked that he'd be revealing shocking evidence about my rise to power. Little did they know, I'd been waiting for this moment. "Ms. Gonzalez," they shouted. "Any comment on the allegations?" I paused, perfect in my black Chanel suit. The truth will speak for itself. Inside, Dylan sat with his lawyer, looking haunted. Sienna, out on bail, huddled nearby with Roslyn. They'd aged years in weeks. "All rise," the bailiff called as the judge entered. Dylan's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Gonzalez orchestrated a years-long conspiracy to gain control of both Mr. Whitney's position and his family's company." "Interesting theory," I said, standing. "But I think we should discuss the real conspiracy, the one involving the original Whitney fortune." Roslyn's sharp intake of breath echoed through the courtroom. I opened a folder. "I'd like to submit evidence showing how the late Mr. Whitney, Dylan's father, lost his family's fortune, not through bad investments, as everyone believed, but through embezzlement, money that mysteriously appeared in accounts belonging to his children." "Objection," Dylan's lawyer shouted. "This is irrelevant." "On the contrary," I continued, "it proves a pattern of financial fraud within the family, a pattern that continued with Dylan's own embezzlement from Montgomery Industries." "You're lying," Sienna shrieked, jumping up. "Our father would never—" "Your father did." I pulled out more documents. "And you both knew. That's why you never questioned your sudden wealth after his death. Money that, coincidentally, funded Dylan's initial investment in Montgomery Industries." The judge leaned forward. "These are serious allegations, Ms. Gonzalez, which is why I've already provided copies to the SEC and FBI. I smiled as federal agents entered the courtroom. "They're particularly interested in the offshore accounts." Chaos erupted. Roslyn fainted. Sienna began screaming. Dylan lunged across the table at me, only to be tackled by security. "Order!" The judge banged his gavel. "This court is in recess while we sort out these criminal matters." As the agents led the Whitney family away, Tessa appeared at my side. "That was brutal, even for you. They brought this on themselves." I watched Dylan being handcuffed. I gave them everything, and they still wanted more. My phone buzzed. Rolando again. "Just saw the news. Dad would be proud." I froze. Our father, the man whose death had started my journey for power, the secret I'd kept buried deepest of all. Back at the office, Richard waited with the board members. "The stock's actually up," he reported. "The market loves a scandal with a strong leader emerging." "Speaking of leadership," I addressed the board, "I understand there are concerns about my methods." "Not concerns," Sawyer interjected. "Admiration. You built this company while letting others take credit. You uncovered fraud that could have destroyed us. You're not just powerful, you're necessary." One by one, the board members nodded in agreement. Later that night, alone in my office, I poured a glass of whiskey and walked to the window. The city lights sparkled below, each one representing a story, a secret, a life. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won? Wait until they learn what really happened to your father." I smiled, typing back, "Hello, Sienna. How's jail?" "They'll all turn on you when they know the truth." "The truth?" I laughed softly. "The truth is, I watched my father die while you and Dylan played with stolen money. The truth is, I built an empire while you destroyed yourselves. The truth is, I won." I blocked her number and called Tessa. "It's done," she said without preamble. "The divorce is finalized. Dylan's assets are frozen. Roslyn's house is being seized as evidence. And Sienna? Psychiatric evaluation ordered by the court. She keeps rambling about your father's death. I thought about that rainy night 15 years ago, about choices and consequences, about the price of power. Let her talk, I said finally. No one believes crazy anymore. A knock at my door, Sawyer with more audit reports. We found something else, something big. I gestured him in, ready for whatever new battle awaited. Because that's what queens do. They fight, they win, they rule. And I was just getting started. Some people call it revenge, I said, taking the reports. I call it karma. The city lights twinkled below like 1,000 watching eyes, witnesses to my triumph. In the reflection of the window, I saw not the perfect wife I'd pretended to be, but the queen I'd become. Never confuse silence for weakness. Sometimes it's the quiet ones who change everything. The beach house stood alone against the grey horizon, waves crashing against the rocky shore below. I'd bought it years ago under a different name, my escape plan that became my sanctuary. Nice place, Orlando said, following me inside. Very different from where we grew up. I set my bag down, taking in my brother's weathered face. Thank you for coming. When your long-lost sister asks to meet after destroying her husband's entire family, you show up. He managed a small smile. Though I have to ask, why now? Because it's time for one last truth. I poured 2 glasses of wine. About the night Dad died. His body tensed. Soleil? Sienna's been asking questions, making threats. She thinks she knows something. She doesn't know anything, he snapped. She wasn't there. No, but we were. I handed him a glass. You, me, and Dad, arguing about the money he'd stolen from his job, the money that was supposed to pay for my college. The money he gambled away, Rolando added bitterly, just like always. He was drunk, screaming about how I thought I was better than him. I walked to the window. When he grabbed me, I pushed him. Rolando's voice cracked. He fell down the stairs. I was protecting you. We both were. I turned back to him. That's why I left you the insurance money, why I disappeared to build something new. And now? What happens when Sienna starts digging? My phone buzzed. Tessa. It's done. Sienna's been committed long-term. Court ordered. I showed Rolando the message. Nothing happens. She's lost all credibility. And Dylan? Took a plea deal this morning. 5 years for fraud. Rosalind's under house arrest. Rolando whistled low. You really did destroy them all. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure everyone saw it happen. A knock at the door made us both jump. Richard stood there, looking apologetic. Sorry to interrupt your vacation, but there's something you need to see. He handed me a tablet showing a news article. Whitney Family Fortune, a legacy of fraud. The story detailed generations of financial crimes, each generation covering for the next. The reporters dug deeper than even I did, I mused. Their entire family history was built on lies. Like ours? Rolando asked quietly. No. I set down the tablet. We survived our history. They manufactured theirs. My phone rang. Sawyer. The board approved the company name change. Montgomery Industries is now officially Gonzalez Global. I ended the call and looked at Rolando. Stay. Work with me. Help me build something legitimate. After everything that happened with Dad, because of everything that happened, we can't change the past, but we can choose what we build from it. He studied me for a long moment before nodding. Okay, sis. Show me how to build an empire. Later that evening, as Richard and Rolando discussed potential projects, Tessa joined me on the deck. Was it worth it? She asked. All the revenge, the revelations. I watched the waves crash below. They thought I was just a trophy wife, a silent partner, a secret they could control. And instead, they learned what happens when you underestimate a woman who built herself from nothing. I smiled. Who knows the power of secrets and when to reveal them? Dylan's lawyer called, she said. He wants to appeal. Let him. The evidence is ironclad, and now he has nothing left to fight with. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Sienna's hospital. Patient requesting to speak with you. Claims to have information about your father. I deleted it without responding. Some secrets deserve to stay buried, while others need to be shouted from rooftops. The trick is knowing the difference. Ready to head back? Tessa asked. I looked at Rolando through the window, at Richard with his stack of papers, at the empire I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. "No," I said. "I think I'll stay here a while, watch the waves, plan the future. Not plotting any more revenge. The best revenge isn't what you take," I repeated my earlier words. "It's what you build after everything's been taken away." The sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of victory. In the distance, a storm was brewing, but I'd always been good at weathering those. Some houses burned themselves down. I just made sure everyone watched, and from those ashes I built something stronger, something real. Because that's what queens do. They don't just survive, they reign.